Scotland, Alister Jack.
Thank you, Michelle. They say there's nothing quite like pledge to the Scottish Conservative and Unionist Party, and the clue is in the name. We will always fight for our union, fight to strengthen Scotland's place in the United Kingdom, and we will do that with absolutely everything we have got. Because we know that Nicola Sturgeon is once again demanding the right to hold another independence referendum. It does not matter to her that the 2014 result was decisive, or that she promised that it would settle the issue for a generation, or that the people of Scotland don't want more division and uncertainty and just want to move on. She is preparing to ask again because, ladies and gentlemen, it is her obsession. The SNP will never give up, and so we will never stop making the case for keeping our union, because only we can. We now know that the surrenderists in the Labour Party will sell out the union to get Jeremy Corbyn into number 10. Their message to the Scottish electorate is clear. If you vote Labour, you are voting for a second independence referendum. We also know that the Liberal Democrats don't have the strength to stand up to the SNP across Scotland. And we also know that the UK is Scotland's most important partnership. Our trade with the rest of the UK is worth more than 3 times as much as our trade with the rest of the EU. The union dividend is worth more than £2,000 for every man, woman and child in higher public spending in Scotland. But for me, the case for keeping our union goes deeper. Our 300-year-old ties of history, family and friendship. So I will never stop fighting for the United Kingdom. Now, part of keeping our union strong is to deliver Brexit. We must honour the result of the Brexit referendum so that we can take the opportunities and the advantages of life outside the EU. Recently, I visited the bustling fishing market of Peterhead and sat down with industry leaders. They relish the opportunities leaving the common fisheries policies will afford. I've also talked to farmers and to representatives of key sectors of the Scottish economy. And it is my commitment to them that this Scottish Conservative and Unionist government and our Scottish Conservatives will keep delivering for Scotland. And I'm going to keep shouting that from the rooftops and telling them about our achievements. And today, I will announce that £25 million is available for a new growth deal for Argyll and Bute. And that adds to the £1.4 billion that we've already invested in our City and Growth Deal programme in Scotland, transforming the local economies and creating high-skilled jobs. And we are going to complete the programme with deals for Falkirk and the islands, and they will be announced in the near future. We've also announced a £1.25 billion contract to build the Royal Navy's Type 31 frigates in Fife. And they couldn't go to the Clyde for that contract because it has no capacity left. And that is another success story for Scotland. We're bringing the international COP26 climate conference to Glasgow. We're introducing post-study work visas, which will bring the brightest and the best to Scotland's world-renowned universities. And as the Prime Minister announced recently in Aberdeenshire, we're providing an extra £211 million for Scottish farmers, resolving a long-running dispute over CAP allocations. Ladies and gentlemen, that's an issue I raised as a newly elected backbencher, and now as Secretary of State for Scotland, I'm extremely proud to have seen it resolved by this Conservative government. Since Scotland elected a strong group of 13 MPs to Westminster in 2017, they have consistently delivered for Scotland. The last 2 budgets have frozen duty on spirits. That backs our biggest export of the whisky industry. We've also frozen duty on fuel, giving motorists, especially in rural areas, a helping hand. And we have saved, for the Scottish Police and Fire Services, £40 million every year by lifting the requirement to pay VAT. And that was clearing up a mess made by the SNP. We've also ended the unfairness of serving military personnel having to pay higher income tax, just simply for being stationed in Scotland. Nicola Sturgeon's High Tax Scotland. The Scottish Government's budget has also been increased by billions of pounds, money the SNP should be using to improve our public services. But instead, the SNP have made Scotland the highest tax part of the UK. And on education, supposedly Nicola Sturgeon's #1 priority, they have cut 3,100 teachers and allowed Scottish education, once viewed in the world to be the best, to be now judged internationally as just average. Under their management, a quarter of Scottish patients are waiting too long for treatments in our hospitals. We have had delays and extra costs to the new Sick Kids Hospital in Edinburgh, and that's just the latest of a number of scandals to have hit the Scottish NHS. So at a time when satisfaction with Scotland's schools, Scotland's healthcare and public transport has fallen to an all-time low, we must challenge them to do better. And our fantastic MSPs in Holyrood are doing just that. Recently, they forced the SNP government to finally abandon its intrusive named person scheme. But let's give some of the credit where it's due and I'd just like to take a moment to thank Ruth Davidson. Ruth has done so much to transform our party into a strong opposition to the SNP and their efforts to break up Britain, and we should all pay tribute to her. I also know that Jackson Carlaw, interim leader, will continue to follow the great work and continue holding the SNP to account. Ladies and gentlemen, our hard-working Conservative MPs and MSPs are a far cry from the noisy and ineffective nationalists. For them, Holyrood is a vehicle for a drive for their separation, and Westminster is about stunts and grievances. However, we are there in Westminster and in Holyrood to get things done, as I've detailed to you, and we have got things done, many things done. We have a proud record of delivery that we can build on. We have a Prime Minister who's totally committed to the Union. And so in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, I can reassure you that Scotland, at the heart of the United Kingdom, has a very bright future. Thank you.